Now I'm going to talk a little bit about changes over time. This study covers 34 countries from every region, from low-income countries and middle-income countries, 338 subnational regions covering 202.5 million of people, billion. The global MPI is estimated every year with the maximum information available. In countries where the survey design changed and affected the comparability across years, we standardized the MPI, we strictly standardized the MPI parameters to make them comparable. Besides, the interval of surveys, so these 34 countries are countries for which there is a recent MPI estimate, as well as a comparable the demographic and health survey. The interval of years between the two surveys varies across countries. In Gabon, we have DHS 2000 and DHS 2012. In Tanzania, we have DHS 2008 and DHS 2010. So to be able to make comparisons between countries, we use changes by year, annualized changes. So how did these countries perform? 30 of the 34 countries have actually reduced MPI. This figure you are seeing, in the horizontal axis, we have the MPI in the first year of the comparison. So countries more to your right will be poorest at the beginning of the comparison. You can see Niger and Ethiopia in the extreme. On the vertical axis, you have the change per year, the absolute change in MPI per year. So you can see that in the bottom, it's the countries who performed best. Actually, these are what we call the star performance. You can see Nepal was the one that reduced MPI most per year, followed by Rwanda and Ghana. With the exception of Bolivia and Ghana, all these countries are low-income countries and less developed countries. How do you reduce the MPI? Two ways. You can reduce the percentage of people who are poor, the incidence, or the percentage or the share deprivations that the poor experience, the intensity. What we have found is that nearly all countries have reduced more incidence than intensity, so they have reduced the percentage of poor. The exceptions were Ethiopia and Niger. In this graph, what we have is in the horizontal axis, we have the change in incidence on the percentage. And on the vertical, we have the change in intensity. So if you can see, the Nepal, Rwanda, they have, and Ghana, our top performance, have performed very well, both in reducing the percentage of poor and in reducing the intensity of poverty. By indicators, we find that 10 of our 34 countries have made significant reductions in all indicators. However, the profiles vary. Here, for an example, we have Rwanda, who has decreased most in sanitation, Ghana in school attendance, Tanzania in sanitation and child mortality, and Uganda in water and assets, but varies. Then we also studied by subnational regions. Overall, we found that 208 of the 338 subnational regions have reduced poverty significantly. This means 78% of the poor at the beginning of the comparison. 8 countries have reduced in all their subnational regions: Bangladesh, Bolivia, Gabon, Ghana, Malawi, Mozambique, Niger, Rwanda. Managed to bring all regions. And in 9 countries, the poorest region actually had the fastest decrease, was the region who reduced poverty most. We also look at disaggregation by ethnic groups for countries where we have this information. And here you can see Benin. And the plots, it's the main ethnic groups in Benin. Again, in the axis, in the horizontal axis, you have the MPI at the initial period. And on the vertical, the change. You can see that so more to the right are the poorest. And it seems like the poorest, the lower has been the change. And in fact, the poorest ethnic group, the Pure, saw no change in MPI. So they are being left behind. While on the picture is completely different in Kenya. In Kenya, the poorest, the Somali, actually were the one who performed best. They have the biggest reduction in MPI. They are catching up. How would this picture change if instead of looking in changes on MPI poverty, I would look at changes in income poverty? So here it's plotted change on the incidence, on the percentage of multidimensional poor in red, and the percentage and the change on the income poor, the $125 a day. And what first thing, it's like 12, this is the 22 countries for whom we have comparable data. 12 of these countries have actually reduced multidimensional poverty faster than income poverty. In the case of Nepal, it did well in both. It reduced strongly both MPI poverty and income poverty. Rwanda, Ghana, and Bolivia have reduced 2 to 3 times faster MPI poverty. On the other hand, Niger, Ethiopia, Mozambique, Uganda, and Cambodia have made fastest improvements in income poverty. So if we assess the progress only by income poverty, those would be the stars. And so the tremendous gains of Rwanda, Ghana, and Bolivia would have been absent, would be invisible, not absent, they would be there. So now I pass the word to Shimon.